Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Grade Up. Myself, Waris Siddiqui, again before you with a new topic. The topic is abolition of caliphate in Turkey and secularism. You all know Turkey. Turkey is a country. Turkey is a country in Asia. It's geographically big, and since all of you study geography also, I am sure that you can locate Turkey on the map also. Turkey had a large empire. Turkey controlled vast areas of land, and it was a great empire, and that empire was called the Ottoman Empire. And one of the greatest achievements of Ottoman Empire, which all of you have been reading, many times you must have read about it, is that in 1453 the Ottoman Empire defeated the Byzantine Empire of Europe and captured its capital Constantinople. And that event was a landmark in world history, and that also contributed to the growth of Renaissance in Europe. But right now we are not concerned with that fully. Just in passing I am mentioning that the Ottoman Empire was a very powerful and a very great empire, and once it had given a major blow to Europe also and captured Constantinople. And the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire was the Caliph, was the Khalifa of the Muslims of the world. In medieval period, this conception was very much alive, the conception of a Khalifa or a Caliph. Caliph was the religious head of the Muslims around the globe. In his religious capacity, he was the head of all the Muslims of the world. At least that was claimed by them. That may not be a reality, but at least that was claimed by them. And many people believed also in that the Ottoman Sultan is the Khalifa of the Muslims. In India also, a large number of Muslim population was very emotional about it. They believed that the Sultan of Turkey is the Khalifa, so they believed in it. And such a powerful empire, such a powerful system that started declining. It declined in 18th century, it further declined in 19th century, and in 19th century it was called the sick man of Europe. Why it was called the sick man of Europe? Because whereas Europe had developed very much, Europe had modernized itself, Turkey had failed to modernize itself to a considerable degree. You will say that Turkey is an Asian country. Why is it called the sick man of Europe? Geographically, Turkey is a part of Asia, but politically it has always been considered a part of Europe. So, Europe is intrinsically connected to Turkey. So that's why it's called the sick man of Europe. I should ask all of you, some people are complaining that their screen is blank, they can't see anything. Please confirm me. Please confirm me. Can you see me and hear me? Am I visible and am I audible? Okay. Thank you everyone. So that must be problem with some of the people. So that must be network problem on their side, because on my side the network right now is doing very good. And maybe one thing will help if they will close their app and then start it again. So closing it and starting it again may solve the problem. Okay. So we will continue. So in 19th century, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. It had become backward in military prowess. It had become backward in its political system. It had become backward in its philosophy. It had become backward in its economy. So very little modernization had taken place, whereas the rest of Europe that had gone very much ahead of Turkey. But no matter what, even if it was a sick man of Europe, but one thing was a reality, that it controlled vast areas. It controlled areas in Europe also. Many areas in Europe were under the control of Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire also controlled areas in the Gulf and Africa. In the Arabian part also it controlled, and in the African part it also controlled. In Europe, as I already told you, it controlled area in Europe. So the Ottoman Empire may be sick, may be weak, may be backward, but still it was important because it controlled vast areas of land. And then happens the First World War. And in the First World War, there are two groups. Two groups are fighting. One group is the Allied powers, and the other group is the Central powers. And Turkey is part of the Central powers. And the Allied powers defeat the Central powers in the war. So Germany is defeated, Austria is defeated, and Turkey is defeated. And after that, peace settlement takes place, treaties are signed, and the empire of Germany comes to an end. The empire of Austria comes to an end. And the empire of Turkey comes to an end. So First World War eclipsed three empires. It brought to an end three large empires. The Empire of Germany, the Austrian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. And we have seen in the earlier class, in the first class of this series, we have seen that Treaty of Sèvres was signed with the Turks. But later on, amendments were carried out in the Treaty of Sèvres, and then the Treaty of Lausanne was signed, and it was on the basis of Lausanne that things were done. But the basic reality was that the Ottoman Empire had gone. The empire was not there. The Sultan was there. The Turkish Sultan was there. But his territories were gone. He no longer controlled an area. And at that time, the nationalists of Turkey, who were very much influenced by the modern ideas, they stood against the Sultan, and the Sultan was removed, and so the Sultanate came to an end. And the nationalists under the leader of Mustafa Kemal Pasha, also called Ataturk, they overthrew the caliphate. They overthrew the caliphate, and Mustafa Kemal Pasha or Ataturk became the president. He had become the president in 1923, just after the signing of the Treaty of Lausanne with the Allied powers, and he continued to be the president up to 1938. That is 15 glorious years. Of course, there were many negative things also. There were many shortcomings also on the part of Ataturk, and there were many problems also in his government. But overall, in those times, he was a successful leader, and the people valued him, and the people accepted what he did, and the people and the public opinion supported him. So technically he became the president in 1923, and in 1924 the caliphate was abolished. That means from now on the ruler of Turkey will not be a Khalifa. There will be no Sultan and there will be no Caliph. And the new constitution was adopted in 1924. Wrongly it is mentioned 1934. It is 1924. The new constitution was adopted in 1924. And there was an uphill task before Mustafa Kemal Pasha, because things were in a very bad shape. Turkey had been defeated, its economy had been ravaged, its economy had been destroyed, and what's more, all around in the different sectors of the life, there was backwardness, and still medievalism was present in many sectors. Modernity was missing, no industrialization was there. Europe had industrialized itself quite much, but Turkey had not industrialized. Europe had modernized the different sectors of its life, but Turkey was far behind. and there was narrow-mindedness, there was orthodoxy, and there was over-religiousness. There was over-religiousness. So it was a great task before Mustafa Kemal Pasha. So Mustafa Kemal Pasha basically focused on 6 things. First is republicanism. He had removed the Sultan, he had removed the Caliphate, and an election system had been put in place. Elections were held. Turkey had been made a republic. But Turkey should be a republic not only in a symbolic sense, it should be a republic in actual working. The spirit of democracy and the spirit of republicanism should be there. So that meant educating the people, that meant restructuring the system, and that meant creating a public opinion. So Mustafa Kemal Pasha focused on republicanism. Then he focused on nationalism. Turks earlier were not national because they controlled vast areas in other countries. So it was transnational. The Ottoman Empire was transnational. And thinking only in terms of Turkish nationalism was not there on a very large scale. But the Kemalist revolution, this revolution that was based on nationalism, and it further tried to strengthen the ideas of nationalism. That's why one of the things that Turkish language was promoted. Turkish language was promoted, and whatever the influence of Arabic language was there, that influence was tried to be reduced. So he promoted nationalism. And thirdly, he focused on populism. Populism meant many things: involving the people, educating the people, making the people aware, mobilizing the people, making people participant in the system. So this was one of his focus areas. And one was statism. That means things should be done under the leadership of the state. A state should be the central power. A state should not have a minimal role, but a state should have a very big role. And a state should carry out industrialization and economic development. So that was statism. And fifth, secularism, because still lot of medievalism was there. Lot of narrow-mindedness, lot of orthodoxy that was there in Turkish society. And Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he tried to introduce secularism. But I should also tell you that while trying to bring secularism, sometimes he became illogical. Sometimes he became illogical also. And sometimes he was very much correct. He was very much correct that the Turkish society should be secularized. He was very much correct. But suppose he is saying the traditional fez Turkish cap should not be worn. Mustafa Kemal Pasha, by law, he said that the traditional Turkish cap, the fez, that Turkish hat called Fez, F-E-Z, that should not be worn. And he only promoted Western dress. So, somewhere he was undermining tradition, and somewhere he was becoming hyperactive, overactive. If someone is wearing a fez, that does not mean he can't be a secular. So sometimes he was in his efforts, there are both the sides. There are positive side and there is a negative side also. But overall, what is the overall impact? The overall impact was positive. He made Turkey a great nation. He secularized Turkey. And he also focused on revolution, because whatever was happening in Turkey, that in itself was a revolution. Revolution means a fundamental change in a very short period of time. So this national revolution should be carried further. That national revolution should be intensified. So all that was his purpose. Now in secularism he did very good things. Some very good steps he took, and he contributed to secularism. Like he reformed the law, because the law of those times that had many backward elements. Medievalism was passing as Islam. They were saying, those who were the supporters of the backward laws, they were saying it, Islam says it. But that was not actually the case. That was only one interpretation of Islam. There is a liberal interpretation of Islam also. And there are other viewpoints also. So, in law, the law that was practiced in Turkey, lot of illogicalness, lot of narrow-mindedness, lot of orthodoxy, lot of superstitions, those things were there. So, he had two options before him. One, he could have reformed the law, but he preferred to abolish the religious courts. He abolished the religious courts in 1924, and he abolished the religious schools in 1924. So that contribute in those times, that this had a lot of impact on the society. Today there are religious schools. Not necessarily they are very orthodox. Some, like there are scholars who have a very liberal understanding of Islam, and their idea of Islamic law and idea of Islamic religion is very broad-minded. But in those times, he felt that way, and to promote secularism, he abolished the religious courts and abolished the religious schools, because they had become negative at that time. These courts and these schools were not showing positivity. If at all there was some positivity, they were not displaying it. They were displaying the negative part. They were displaying their orthodoxy. And he adopted a secular system of family law, in which females also had rights, and females earlier were not given much of a space. And secondly, he substituted Latin alphabet for the Arabic in writing Turkish. He said that if you want to write Turkish, why are you writing it in Arabic language? Why not use Turkish script? And there was no Turkish script. So he asked scholars to develop a Turkish script. And that Turkish script was based on Latin alphabets. So this is what he did. Thirdly, he adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1925. Earlier, both the calendars had been used, Gregorian and the Hijri calendar. So he took the extreme step of removing the Hijri calendar. I think that was a little hyper reaction. He should have adopted Gregorian calendar for all the state things and public things. But for private work of the people, what is the problem if someone is using the Hijri calendar? Today in India, everybody is using the Gregorian calendar. But side by side for religious things, the Vikram era is also used. The Hijri era is also used. So what's the problem? But yes, in those times, Turkey had become such a backward state that Mustafa Kemal Pasha was compelled to take hyper action. Then what he did, he said Friday will not be a holy day and Sunday will be a holiday. So that happened in 1935. And he abolished the wearing of the face cap. He abolished the wearing of the face cap. As I discussed earlier also. It was the traditional cap of the Turkish people. Sixth, he abolished the wearing of clerical garb outside places of worship. He said, if you are not in a place of worship, why are you wearing a clerical garb? So this step he also took. Women were given the right to vote and sit in parliament. So there were many. So whatever Mustafa Kemal Pasha did, whatever Ataturk did, there were many positive dimensions and there were also some overreaction from his side. But what is important is that he weakened the hold of the religious leaders. He weakened the hold of the clergy. The clergy that was determining everything in Turkey, and the clergy and the religious leaders were the greatest problem in the modernization of Turkey. So Mustafa Kemal Pasha or Ataturk, his role was very profound. He is a milestone in Turkish history. From being a backward nation, he modernized it very much. He industrialized it under state patronage, under state leadership. He industrialized it. The economy was modernized. The education system was modernized. The legal system was modernized. Women were given powers, and almost all sectors of life, they were impacted. All sectors of life were impacted, and since the clergy, the religious leaders, they had been weakened, so the process of modernization that continued in the Turkish society. So this is all about the topic. Today we saw the end of the Turkish Caliphate and the issue of secularism. If there is any question, please ask. Is there any question you can ask? Okay, so no doubts are there, no question is coming. So we finish the class here. We'll meet again with a new topic. Bye for now. Take care. Thank you.